the journey, going there and back again, is part of the experience in roleplay games. And with the scope of some games getting bigger and bigger and the big open worlds becoming more expansive, then how the travel system is approached starts to be more important. In some games, there's a limiting factor, be it a resource, whether or not it's game currency or some other system, or in some cases like Warcraft's Hearthstone. It would give you a fast travel option once per hour. So you kind of thought more about when you would use it because of the cooldown. And of course, there were some ways around it. You could drop group in an instance and teleport away. If people found ways to cheese it a little, but for the most part, it was trying to make it available, but not the first thing you think of. And you could play a mage, or you could, get summoned by a warlock. There was lots of ways around it. But I think the initial idea of a Hearthstone kind of put a limit to it, where if you really just needed to get back, you could, but you couldn't, just constantly without thinking about it. Where in the modern version of the game, travel is is very there's lots of travel options. There's lots of just teleporting around, like whizzing around the whole map, and it makes the enormous game world feel tiny. In other games like in Skyrim, The Witcher 3, Red Dead Redemption 2, games like that, there are multiple different levels of layers of conveyances. There's there's the boats or carriages, or the train. Like in Morrowind, there was like the silt striders or the boats. So sometimes there's like like in MMOs, there's usually like flight paths, but then there's also different ways to teleport between like the capitals, or also in Morrowind, there was the Mages Guild, where you could you could pay gold to transport between the different mages colleges, and depending on your actions in the game, you could ruin the chance to do that or reduce the cost of it. And that was kind of a nice layer of RPG that where it was like there was sort of a motivation for you to behave in one way or another. There was consequences, be it minor, to your actions, or there was a benefit for helping them out. That's kind of nice to have different ways to include it. In Warcraft, when you had higher rep with the faction that owned the flight path, it gave you a reduced cost at a different faction level. That stopped mattering when the game economy changed to the point that the flight paths were a negligible amount of money, but it made more of a difference originally with the economy. But in games like New World, where you have your Azoth energy, then basically, if you don't craft, you can just teleport constantly because you earn enough of it. And it's a very strange choice they made, that they crafters need Azoth to craft, but everybody uses it to teleport. Even it's a peculiar choice. But yeah, I mean, like in games with a lot of shrines or fast travel points, then it gets to the point where you're playing the UI and you're no longer interacting with the game world anymore. And I think a big thing that makes me, at least, decide on the side of convenience of taking myself out of the world, is when I just don't feel like the trip there is going to be eventful or interesting. In some games, there's nothing to see. There's no treasure to find. There's no random encounters to be had. Like, there's no interesting hidden, even like visual things just slightly off the beaten path. A weird way I've seen it handled in some games, like Black Desert Online or like The Witcher. I think they might even have this in Red Dead. I can't remember, but they have like a way that you can kind of auto navigate in your character, so you can have them walk through the world for you. And I used to like that in Lord of the Rings Online. I liked to get on the horse paths and let my character ride through, and I would just look around at the scenery. But just I'm not sure that that's a good solution because I don't see a big reason in making the journey if you're going to do it like AFK. I mean, sometimes you do need to just step away from the game, but that in that circumstance, it feels like teleporting to a safe area and then just leaving your character idle makes more sense. Like in Elder Scrolls Online, every time I needed to step away, I would just teleport to the nearest like safe area. Because it was like negligible to do so. Um, like games with like absolutely broken economy systems, the amount of currency it takes for like taxis and teleports just stops mattering really quickly in the game. But no, I find that like I preferred the games where you needed to kind of familiarize yourself with the world. Like there are some games that I spent so much time figuring out where everything was in relation to something else because I actually traveled down on the ground or like on a mount. But I went through the areas so thoroughly that I knew them as if they were real places. And there's a lot of games that like I couldn't even tell you what zone it is just looking at a picture of it. Like so I feel like there's been like kind of a push away from the slower, more more role play adventure sort of exploration. And I wonder if that's because like the scope of the areas has gotten out of hand and it would just be too time consuming to make every little square inch of them interesting. Like or I wonder if there's something else to it. I mean, like, in some games, the maps are procedurally generated, and that's totally fine because, you have to start somewhere, and you don't necessarily need to handcraft every little hill or valley. But, a lot of them, they go back over and refine them and add, you know, some level of interest, some reason to travel them. And I feel like that's been lacking in a lot of games. I I don't really want to waste my actual time traveling back and forth. Um, I think a good way that this could be handled, and this is usually restricted to just the starting zones, like the tutorial areas of MMOs or some single player roleplay games, is that they have restricted at first travel. Like in SWOTOR, when you are doing your starting planet, you need to do all the quests. All the main story quests. Not you can skip some of the side quests, but once you do, then you unlock the option to leave the starting planet and travel to other planets. And in some other areas like Lord of the Rings, you needed to finish the starting area before you could go out into the bigger world. But I think 1 second. I think all games at any level could benefit from having a more localized quest hub where there was more of a limit on how many times you were asked to run across, like completely across the map. Like if games themselves put more weight on travel, maybe that would make it less incentivized to instantly travel. Like if you are able to pick up a lot of quests that can be done quickly on foot to the point you don't even want to mount up or travel away, and you can like easily return to turn them in, then you're less likely to want to teleport around. Whereas, you know, if there's a quest like, hey, go completely to the other side of the map to just talk to this guy and then come back, then, you know, you're not going to spend 40 minutes physically walking there and to return just for a quick message. You're going to just teleport, never give it a second thought, come back and progress the quest. So I think, you know, like, there's kind of the joke, well, why didn't the Eagles just fly, you know, fly the fellowship directly to Mount Doom, right? But I mean, that's kind of the point. Like, the whole story is of the journey from a starting point to an end point, and I think more games could benefit from having a gradual progression through the game to the point where you don't want to teleport back and forth. You know, it's like you have sort of a feeling of completion when you finish a zone and move on to the next one. Maybe even save the breadcrumb, hey, there's more world out there quest until later in the progression of that story area. Like, you know, it's like, oh, you've done most of what you could do here. Why don't you go to the next little hub and then quest there? It feels, I don't know, it feels like it would incentivize playing all the way through an area more than just having all kinds of quests that send you everywhere. So, something that I really enjoyed doing, and it kind of led me into playing more of the survival type games, is there was a camping mod for Skyrim. And there's also a lot of inns just in the game naturally. In the different holes of the game, there's an inn and there's some remotely. So I just decided that my character was going to slowly go through and do area by area, and I would have her camp out every time it would be night. And you know, I I used a hunting mod, so she would hunt for food and cook it at night and gather snow and melt it for water and that sort of thing. And it added like a whole different layer of enjoyment for me, that traveling actually felt like a journey, and it wasn't necessary at all, but it was enjoyable. And a lot of the games that have the survival elements included out of the box just turn them into more of an annoyance than a benefit, because they're just, you know, there's something nagging at you while you're trying to do something else. It's not just a layer of enrichment that is available should you want it, but isn't going to bother you. So I don't know. The the survival aspect didn't really feel like the same thing as travel, but I feel like they're closely related. So I kind of am just saying it at the end. But yeah, I feel like their survival systems were kind of a way of addressing like travel in open worlds and making them feel a bit more I don't want to just use the word immersive, but you know, you have more of a feeling that your character is on a journey through a land or a story than just you know, I don't really like when games where I'm playing the UI. I like where I'm actually interacting with the world. So I don't like too many menus or too much you know, like having a map is good for reference, but using a map to just teleport directly there really pulls me out of the game personally. How do you feel about it? Is there a game that you feel like has a good balance between the convenience of fast travel? Do you know, value your time to the point that you don't want to waste it going somewhere you've already been before? or do you enjoy like a slow paced journey? I'm curious. Take care.